British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon and welcome into your 3 o'clock news report. I'm Elijah Ford. Surrey City Council has approved nearly $3.5 million in contracts for park upgrades across the community. Projects covered by the funding include new large heated picnic shelters at 2 Newton parks, upgrades at Softball City, and new softball fencing and dugouts at Sunnyside Park. The money will come from the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department's capital projects budget. Work on all 3 projects is set to start next month and wrap up in the new year. Speaking of parks, Vancouver's Rio Theatre is expanding, and this time to the west side. Our reporter Orchid Salang has more on their most recent purchase of the iconic Park Theatre.
The Rio Theatre has officially bought the historic Park Theatre on Cambie, giving new life to one of the city's last neighborhood cinemas. Hundreds came out for the theater's supposed last screening on October 26th to say a final goodbye to the space. But upon hearing that it may be turned into a gym, Rio Theatre owner Corinne Leah quickly assembled a team of star-studded investors. With support from Vancouver's own Finn Wolfhard of Netflix's Stranger Things to Grammy Award-winning director Sean Baker, the Rio was able to buy back the iconic independent theater. For the local film community and movie buffs in Vancouver, it's a rare piece of good news and a sign that independent cinema still has a place in Vancouver's entertainment landscape. Orchid Solang, BCIT News.
Great job with that one, Orchid. Thomas Lukaszuk, a former deputy premier of Alberta who has circulated a petition to make it official policy for the province to stay in Canada, says it has just over 456,000 signatures. The final tally is far greater than the 294,000 signatures required over the course of 3 months to initiate a possible referendum in Alberta.
456,365,000 Albertans have said that they don't want anything to do with separatism. And they are asking our premier to do the right thing. It shows that politics can be done in a positive way. It shows that we can actually vote for something, not against something.
The Forever Canadian petition started as a counter to separatists who wanted a referendum on Alberta independence and asked, quote, "Do you agree that Alberta should remain with Canada?" American President Donald Trump's plans to realign global trade through tariffs is set to face its latest legal hurdle in front of the U.S. Supreme Court next week. The hearing combines 2 cases pushing back on Trump's reciprocal tariffs and his fentanyl-related duties on Canada, Mexico, and China. Victor Owen Schwartz is the lead plaintiff. He has been running a small business importing wines and spirits for nearly 40 years.
So let me be clear, Americans are paying these tariffs, not foreign entities. And the tariffs are a terrible and unsustainable weight.
Jeffrey Schwab with Liberty Justice Center, which is representing Schwartz, says Trump is using the U.S. national security statute called the International Economic Emergency Powers Act as a, quote, blank check. Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected in the coming days to tour the shipyard of the Hwang Ocean in South Korea, one of the 2 bidders vying for Canada's multi-billion-dollar submarine procurement. Just ahead of that high-profile visit, a new report says the Canadian government has only been talking about how the potential bidders could spur economic development and domestic jobs within Canada. But defense analyst Stuart Webb says Canada is looking at buying 2 completely different war machines, and the missing piece in the political discussion is what the Canadian Navy will actually need.
The Canadian government's been looking at an economic standpoint, what the economic benefits to Canada are. But, I mean, one is a hunter-killer submarine that's, we've already had with Victoria-class and the Oberon and before that. And the other one's actually a ballistic missile submarine with conventional warheads. It's 2 different submarines, 2 different foreign policies, 2 different operations that those submarines will be undercarrying.
The competition is heating up for the lucrative contract. Just last week, a delegation from Germany and Norway was in Ottawa trying to sell the Canadian government on the German-built TKMS subs. Hurricane Melissa has made landfall in Jamaica as a catastrophic Category 5 storm, one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes in history. Melissa made landfall today in southwestern Jamaica near New Hope, with estimated maximum sustained winds of 185 miles per hour. The U.S. National Hurricane Center in Miami warned of devastating flash flooding and numerous landslides. Forecasters said Melissa was expected to make a landfall in eastern Cuba late today or early tomorrow and then head towards the Bahamas. The slow-moving storm has killed at least 3 people in Jamaica, 3 people in Haiti, and a 4th person in the Dominican Republic, where another person remains missing. Hurricane Melissa is forecast to stay offshore as it accelerates northward later this week, but the Canadian Hurricane Center in Halifax says the storm is still expected to play a role in dumping some ugly weather across eastern Canada. Meteorologist Bob Robichaud says a separate low-pressure system is to blame.
I know in my neighborhood there's some discussion about holding off Halloween until Saturday, but Saturday, especially early, is going to be pretty windy, so it won't be rainy on Saturday, but it'll be windy.
While Melissa will likely head for the Grand Banks off eastern Newfoundland on Saturday, the low-pressure system to the west is expected to continue churning out blustery, wet weather. Corporate giant Amazon will cut about 14,000 corporate jobs as the online giant ramps up spending on artificial intelligence. Beth Galtini, Senior Vice President of People Experience and Technology at Amazon, said in a message to employees today, "The reductions we're sharing today are a continuation of this work to get even stronger by further reducing bureaucracy, removing layers, and shifting resources to ensure we're investing in our biggest bets and what matters most to our customers' current and future needs. Teams and individuals impacted by the job cuts will be notified later today." A federal judge in San Francisco has indefinitely blocked the Trump administration from firing federal workers during the government shutdown. U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston today granted a preliminary injunction that bars the firing while a lawsuit challenging them plays out. She had previously issued a temporary restraining order against the job cuts that was set to expire Wednesday. The Republican administration has been slashing jobs in education, health, and other areas it says are favored by Democrats. Lawyers for the government argued that personnel issues should be heard in a separate venue. Days after 8 pieces of the French crown jewels were stolen from the Louvre, a former bank robber who once toured the now infamous Apollo Gallery for a Louvre podcast says he warned a museum official of weakness in security. David Descolos, a reformed career burglar, told the Associated Press on Tuesday that he warned a Louvre representative years ago that the Apollo Gallery's street-facing windows and nearby vitrines left treasures exposed to anyone bold enough to climb in. The robbery has led to increased scrutiny and questions about the museum's security. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the army to carry out, quote, powerful strikes in Gaza. This decision comes after an Israeli officer reported that Hamas fired on Israeli forces in southern Gaza. Hamas has delayed handing over a hostage's body in response to Israel's planned strikes. Yesterday, the Palestinian militant group handed over body parts that Israel identified as the remains of a hostage they had recovered earlier in the war, which Netanyahu called a violation of their ceasefire. The ceasefire, which began on October 10th, has been fragile with previous flare-ups. The situation remains tense with ongoing clashes. Associated Press reporters heard tank fire and saw explosions in various parts of Gaza, including in Gaza City and Deir al-Balah. Former Vancouver Canucks center Ryan Kesler has been charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of criminal sexual assault in the 4th degree. Kesler was arraigned yesterday in a Michigan courtroom where he pled not guilty to the charges which were filed against him last week over events that occurred in January of this year. His next court appearance is scheduled for November 6th. A fan at a Pittsburgh Penguins game was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries last night after falling from the upper deck at PPG Paints Arena. This is the 3rd time this year and the 2nd time in 3 days that a person has been hospitalized after a high fall at one of the city's sporting venues. Penguins captain Sidney Crosby expressed concern for the individual and their family.
No, I appreciate it. I just want to say we just found out that someone fell tonight, so feels doesn't feel right to be talking about points when we hear something like that. So we just found out. So obviously our thoughts and prayers are with that person and their family, and hopefully that they're okay.
The fan is currently being treated at an arena hospital. 4 people are in serious condition after a bus carrying fans of Brazil's soccer team Flamengo overturned in Rio de Janeiro yesterday. The supporters were traveling to Argentina for the second game of their semi-final series in the Copa Libertadores League. The incident took place on the Via Dutra, the major highway which connects Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, Brazil's 2 largest cities. A total of 46 victims were reported. All affected were transferred to Barra Mansa Municipal Hospital for treatment. The Toronto Blue Jays are going to have to make a quick turnaround from their 6.5-hour classic last night as they are back in action tonight for Game 4 of the World Series. The series is currently led by the Dodgers 2-1 after Freddie Freeman walked off Game 3 with a home run at the bottom of the 18th inning. Blue Jays infielder Ernie Clement says a 6-hour marathon tests mental toughness.
You find a way to lock in each time you go out on defense, and you try to, find a way to get on base for the boys when you're hitting. But that not every day you play 18 innings, so you just kind of figure it out as you go.
Shane Bieber is set to start for the Jays, who will look to even the best-of-7 series at 2 games apiece. Shohei Ohtani, who hit 2 homers last night, starts for L.A. Blue Jays manager John Schneider says that slugger George Springer is hour-to-hour and day-to-day after he left in Game 3 yesterday due to an injury. The first pitch is set for 5 p.m. All 32 NHL teams will be tonight for the second and final time this season as part of the NHL's Frozen Frenzy coverage. Eyes will be on all 7 Canadian teams, particularly the Vancouver Canucks, who will welcome the New York Rangers in JT Miller's return to Vancouver. Thank you for turning in to your 3 o'clock news update. I've been Elijah Ford for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Tell people that I studied journalism, they immediately say, oh, you want to be a reporter. But I think, in my case personally, I really want to go into magazines, PR, social media, and I think here at school we learn a lot of skills that allow you to go into that world because you learn how to write for social media, social content, for websites,